Hello everyone, welcome, good afternoon. I apologize for the delay. I know we're 7 minutes behind, and for the folks who are on time, I get it. That was on me. I want to thank everyone for being here. I am actually going to be standing up most of the time. I've been sitting down in meetings all day today, so bear with me, my legs hurt. And the reason why we're doing this setup too is so we're able to kind of just sit down, stand up with the trustees, and it's very informal conversation. I do want to take a moment and let our ASL interpreters kind of make their announcement, and then our Spanish interpreters too, for anyone who might need Spanish translation. So I pass it on to you all. Okay.
Buenas tardes a todos. Tenemos el gusto de tener aquí. Si necesitan, por favor, deben de venir atrás de la mesa. Gracias.
Does anyone need ASL interpretation? ASL. Okay. No? Okay. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Well, yeah, I want to welcome everyone. Just a few, I think. Housekeeping was the translation services, and I think we'll just let my colleagues kind of introduce themselves.
Hey everyone, good evening. I walked around to meet everybody. The only person in this room, two people I didn't meet these two people, but since we're here, I'm Adam Johnson, trustee for the City of Las Vegas. And your name?
Shauna.
Shauna? Hey Shauna, and you are?
Erica McRae.
Erica, nice to meet both of you. I met everyone else. We're excited to be able to have a conversation with you. This is an informal space. I think the reason we want to have community meetings is because we are people who are committed to our district, like you are people who are committed to our district. And we recognize that working together, we can do the best for our students. And so the best way we do that is coming together and having these types of conversations. So we welcome your questions, welcome your thoughts. We may not have the answers to everything, but we know for certain we'll take back the responses and we'll get answers if we don't have them. But really this is about making sure that we have two-way dialogue consistently so we can work together to be better.
I'm Brenda Zamora. I'm the trustee for District D. I'm also the sitting vice president for CCSD right now.
Hello, I'm Lisa Satori. I'm the appointed trustee for Clark County. So with that role, we'll give you a little bit of background myself. I'm a lifetime educator. I'll try not to hit the mic again and do that. But I've been an educator for about 20 years now. And so I started off and I've done the whole realm of public or district, charter, elementary, middle, high school, and I really just believe in collaboration. I think that's the most important part in education, is for us to all be working together. And so that's why I'm so happy to have these events. I'm so thankful for you all for showing up, and also representing Clark County. It's so wide, so big, and there's so many different needs. So the more that I can get out and really hear what's on your minds and what's important to you, the more it helps me be able to take it back to the board and represent as best as I can. So thank you so much.
And is everyone okay with the hearing? Do you all hear us just fine? Yes, I'm looking at the gentleman in the back. We're good? Okay. I just want to make sure we're all, being able to hear each other. I think we will be starting more than anything with the roles and responsibility of the board members. We are in some times right now, and we all know it. I know everyone in this room. I haven't met you yet, but we're going to meet after this. But I know, we're all involved. Every single one of us are involved in the school district and everything that's happening. I would love, I didn't ask my colleagues beforehand, but definitely taking a moment, just silence and a deep breath. There has been some tragedies that have happened in the past 24 hours that have been heavy on all of us. And I know it's very personal to some of us. I know some of us even have our own kids, same age. So it's heavy. It is really, really heavy. So I just want to take a few moments if everyone's okay with that. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So that kind of leads into the next, the topic that I really wanted for us to lead. The rest will be all you. But one of the things that we hear a lot is, what are you going to do? What can you do? And I think it is important to acknowledge and educate our community on the roles and responsibilities of our board members. The three major ones is the district budget, I mean, I look at my colleagues because they have more experience with budgeting, so I don't know if you want to add anything to that part of the budgeting, what that looks like as board members?
Please go.
I mean, yeah, generally it is a lot of the oversight and approval and just making sure and hearing from those needs of the community as well and knowing, what the needs are, what makes sense, but that oversight as well and making sure that the expenditures are kids first, focused. Yeah.
And the challenging part, not challenging, the interesting part about a budget is that we are effectively at the whim of others to give us money, and then we have to do our best to allocate resources based on what we have. And so the one thing I consistently say in our meetings, and I ask this question often, is do we have enough resources? And so I ask that question of our practitioners because I know they know for certain, what's enough in terms of what resources we have. So our responsibility is to not only make sure that the money that we already are leveraging is spent in the best way, but making sure that we have enough to do all the things we need to do. And that then is our job, is to go and advocate for more once we hear that we don't have enough. And again, this is not to say that the legislature hasn't been cooperative. We just recognize we have lots of needs, and so we have to make sure that we are getting enough resources to do the really complex job that's required.
One of the other things is advocate for our community. I think one thing I'm very proud to say is our board is very dedicated to advocating for our community. We are intentional about being in these spaces, in community. I do thank Trustee Johnson for bringing back and leading the committee for these community meetings to happen. That was 4 board members, which was Trustee Dominguez, Trustee Johnson leading, Trustee Esparza-Strafigan, and myself in this committee to kind of really do the outline and what we want these community meetings to look like, with the support of all our members, of course. And the last thing is oversee the superintendent. As you all, I'm sure, are aware, we just hired a new superintendent. It was an adventure. It was a long road. I think it took more time than we all expected it to take, but we got it done, and now we're just working on setting goals, guidelines, and expectations, and how we hold the superintendent accountable. So that's just something I wanted to just go over real quick. Is there any questions on this topic? Yes.
And I just want to clarify for parents and the online members out there.
Make sure you repeat the question.
We know that you sit over a district.
Get a mic right there.
Sorry. Just as for clarification for anybody who's watching online or doesn't know about trustees and appointed trustees, we know that you're over District E, right?
D.
Okay, D, right? And for the other trustees, do you oversee only for the District D or the entire, even though you're appointed as the entire?
That's a great question.
You want to answer that, or? Oh, okay. So it overlaps, right? So I invited these 2 trustees. They are appointed members, but Clark County just has everyone at this point, right? So I invited her to join my district meeting because there's a lot of unincorporated Clark County, which goes more into civic education at that point. And then we have the Las Vegas representative because we have a lot of overlapping schools as well. They are non-voting. So the thing is that it's just on top, like there's so many trustees, right, for one school at this point now.
Right, and the only reason I asked, like I said, clarifying, so like, let's say when I'm advocating, instead of just advocating to my trustee, I can also go to the other trustee and say, hey, this is what's going on, so I just wanted to clarify.
Yes, and I will say the question, I didn't repeat the question, sorry, Adam.
We're
Like
repeating
you
the
told
question
me.
because we want to make sure we catch it for recording.
So we're recording, we're not live streaming because audio seems to be an issue. So we have the mics on us for the recording, so it's very clear and everyone can hear. So the original question was the trustee roles and what they represent, who are appointed members. And then your follow-up question was just making sure if you were advocating, who would you go to? And I do recommend, the 2 trustees. If it's North Las Vegas, that would be North Las Vegas appointed member. Henderson has one as well. And then I include Trustee Zatori on everything because it's Clark County.
And yeah,
All
and
right.
feel free to include me in those because that is the case. Sometimes people send messages just to their elected trustees, which is, I understand. But yeah, the more I'd love to help out as well, and so the more I can be included in those messages, then I'd love to be informed.
We like to divide and conquer. More
And-
the better.
And we represent everybody
Yes.
too. So like when we're
Yeah.
on the dais, I'm not just thinking about students in Las Vegas or students in or that are in that boundary. We represent all students once we get on the space, and I was appointed by the Las Vegas City Council, but I don't just go to think about Las Vegas students.
Yeah, when we discuss on the dais, we really aren't even discussing for what we
Exactly.
represent. It's really decisions based on the entire district. So.
Any other questions on this topic?
Question I have, I get to all this, Hickey Elementary School. The question I have for both the appointed ones is what's your relationship with the city or the county? Like, what kind of conflicts you have? Because you're a little bit different, right? People voted for the elected trustee. You're appointed by that. What type of communication have you back and forth? Because I feel like the one thing that we don't discuss with the appointed members is the cities and the counties now have ownership of the district because you're sitting on the board. They have the voice. So tell me a little bit about the relationship and what type of communication do you have back to your board?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ed. I have a really great relationship with
Repeat the question.
I'm sorry, thank you very much. So Ed asked, what is my relationship? What is our relationship with our municipalities? I have a fantastic relationship with the city. So I'm required to present to them 4 times a year, So I present to the city council plus the mayor 4 times a year in their briefings, and if they ask me, I will come to their city council meetings. In those briefings, I tell them updates about the updates that I provide are academic performance, measures of success for academics, and then the things that a trustee would oversee. They then ask me specifically, for example, in my last briefing, it got pretty pointed. One of the council members said, "What is happening in my district, in my ward, for these students in particular?" And while I said, one, I make sure that I look at all students, and if that is a particular interest, let's have a conversation with the superintendent. So I set up the conversation between her and the superintendent so we can start to have a dialogue. I know that we have relationships with either our county commissioners or the city council members, but I think it allows for a faster dialogue to happen if a trustee who has a conversation with the superintendent every other week can say, hey, this got brought up to me from a city council member. They've been hearing this from their constituents. We want to make sure that you all are able to have conversation. It doesn't mean that their desires get to be answered any faster, but it does mean that they are able to have different kind of conversations. The other question you asked earlier was about what do you do when there are larger issues? It just means that we can try to figure out how to work together faster. So whether it's safety or if it's traffic, any of the larger issues that might overlap between municipality and the district, because we are so large and we touch so many different things, it just means that we can work together faster. But they don't say to me, hey Adam, you got to look out for this interest and please do that. That's not my responsibility to listen to them in that way. It is to say, what are the things that you're hearing from your constituents, and then how can I make sure that fits within the work that we're already doing with the larger school board.
And same for, yes, very similar for Clark County as well. Yeah, my communication with them is in those presentations, and there's a dialogue there I present to them. They do have a list of some priorities that were given to me in the same types of areas, some of their things that they wanted on my radar or things to, be working on in this role. So when I go do those presentations, I first present to those topics, then I'll also just kind of whatever's been happening lately that I feel like is useful for them to hear about. And then so that really is, but yes, it's not the case though where like Adam was kind of explaining that where they're having us, speak in certain ways or bring certain things up. A lot of what I talk about with them is connecting resources. So generally a lot of the things that happen, if they do reach out, sometimes it'll be, hey, we have this resource, how can we get this out to the schools, or how can we connect to that, or vice versa if things are going on and I can reach out to them and say, hey, we've been talking about this, is there any way Clark County can help out? So it's more that type of relationship than, I don't want it to be seen as them having an influence. per se.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions on that topic? All right. Well, this is the time where we open it up to you all. I want to ask questions. We're just an open. I like to say that I'm an open book, and I say, Trustee Johnson, I think that's where we really relate. We're very much just open, and if we can answer it, we'll answer. If we cannot, we'll try to get to the answers.
You guys can please raise your hand when the mic's going around.
Hi, my name's Katie. I'm a SOT member at Gunderson, and I'm on our leadership team. So my questions are going to be a lot about budget. They all kind of connect. So per pupil funding in Clark County was like $9,501 per student. Schools were given $6,036. But because we were so large, we actually met our projected and we were over. And because of our star rating, we only got funded at 84%. So we only got $5,096 per student. That left us at, we needed $1.5 million to cover our funding for the year, which thankfully our principal had. But our question really is like, if we would have had that extra $940, if we were funded at the full $6,036, we wouldn't have needed $1.5 million to fund our school for the year. And so I guess my question is this going to be adjusted or looked at for the next budget? Because we were able to cover all of our funding, but many schools in our area weren't, which is a loss of teachers, which is a loss of support for kids, and we are very much all here because we want to do what's best for kids. And we were in a good position, but a lot of schools weren't. And so if that funding formula isn't going to be fixed going forward for schools, it's going to be like a massive problem.
So I can tell you what I know, and then.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. So the question that Katie asked was, will the formula that we use to distribute funds from the district down to individual schools, is that going to be amended so that we don't run into some of the same challenges that we saw this year? I know that Justin Dayhoff, who was our CFO, has been working really closely with schools at all levels. I know he met with at least two high school principals who had this same challenge, and so I know he's thinking pretty expansively about how do we change this. Now, this is a very much an operational topic, so we don't necessarily get down into what is the way that's going to happen. It will come to us once they've decided this is the way we want to do it. We want your approval. But to that end, I do know it is a pain point for a number of schools, and the superintendent and her CFO have been very diligent about figuring out how to fix it moving forward. It's not to say that it will be fixed by 26, 27, but I know they're thinking pretty creatively about how to make sure that they can make it work. I don't know if either of you have additional information.
Only thing I was going to kind of add to that, and you were stating kind of yours was not related to the enrollment factor, but more the rate, the star rating, and those. Yeah, that's been a tough. Because you improved.
And our enrollment was so high.
Okay. Yeah, and same where I know that's definitely a topic of conversation to make sure, because a lot of schools are saying also that they make that growth and then they lose funding because now you're funding the ones that are needing the funding to grow, but now things are put in place that need to be sustained. So
We have 5 stars, so we didn't get a program paid for us that the district paid for other schools that weren't 5 stars. So then that was $25,000 more out of our budget, but the district covered it for other schools. So it's just like, we did great, we had all this money, we did great, and now you did great, so now you don't get money. So it's like, it's that, but
It's a very challenging thing to say, we provided these, so the way we, maybe I'll take a step back. A lot of times the ways that we will distribute funding is to say the highest need schools will get this funding, right? So highest need will be determined by schools that may not have performed as well one year over another, et cetera, right? And that's how we determine high need. And then once you get out of that category, we've determined, okay, well, you're not in the high need anymore, so that money doesn't come to you. But it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because if you do well, and what you've done well with is because we had the extra funding to pay for whether it's another service, extra time on school, whatever the thing was, you paid for it with the money that you got because you needed extra support. And then once you've gotten to a certain level, so maybe 1 star to 2 or 2 to 3, 3 to 4, the district now, the policy says, well, you're not in the category anymore of the schools that aren't doing well. So that money that you got previously is now going away. And that's a challenging space to be in because there are other schools that still need that and they still need that funding. And so we're trying to figure out how to eliminate that catch-22, which is you do still need that money because that's sustaining programming that enables you to do well. And we need to make sure we provide it to schools that still have a long way to go.
Everyone.
Yeah.
So it comes back to the initial point, right? Like we need to make sure we grow the pie because we can't just keep shuffling the same amount around. Otherwise, and again, this is not to say that the legislature hasn't done work. This is to say that we need to advocate to ensure that we continue to grow the pie because we know the needs are still great.
Thank you. I see someone with the mic back there.
Stop ringing.
Okay, there it is. My name is David Gomez. Some of you know, some of you don't know. It's okay. But my question is this. Not a question, statement. Don't you think that paying for, I understand the law states, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, the law states that we do need SASs, which at one point they were called area supervisors. And they're overshadowing some of our schools a little bit too much, where some schools are falling behind. And that takes away from educational time, that takes away from things because they want to go in there and tell a principal who has autonomy of the school how to run their school and what they should and should not do. So if that's the case, what's the point in having a principal? If we could just have mayor supervisors, SAS, as they call them. And, you know, some of those things just don't make sense when we're talking about budgeting. Some of those pay grades that we look at, or you can look at it, transparent data, look up somebody's name, you'll find their information and how much money they actually make. And you'll see that some of these SASs actually make more than some of these support staff, and you're going to be busting their rear end to make sure that this stuff works. So when we're talking about budgeting, you know, can we eventually look at how SASs oversee schools so that schools can have a better performance without turning their neck and saying, oh my God, my SAS is here. Oh my God, they're going to make me feel uncomfortable. We got to go to classroom visits. And that does not help the principal itself in whole. And that's what my statement is on that. But the question is, can we eventually visit it somewhere down the line with the superintendent and say, listen, we need to allow these schools to operate so that we can get the formula, the budgets, and things that principals need to do to get this money to make these numbers go up. But if I spend 90% of my time escorting a SAS around the school, obviously I don't have time to watch my staff and do the things I need to do as a principal.
Mm-hmm. Well, and hopefully the person in the role, so it sounds like too, in some of these cases, it could be the person who's in that role. I mean, to me, the position of SAS should be supportive and be like, I think that schools and principals shouldn't feel like, oh, this person's coming into my building, we're all on guard and, we have to dog and pony show it and all of that kind of things. I mean, ideally that would be a source of support, and our district being so large, I do think there is a need for that support for the different areas of town, just kind of like I was talking about Clark County being so wide and the various needs. I could see the need for that position, but definitely, like you're saying, it has to be a supportive role to where they feel like that person's coming in and helping them, work together to achieve the goals.
Well, sometimes they don't ask, what can I do for you? What do you need me to help you with? They're like, show me your numbers, show me where you're going. This is what I see, this is what I don't see. And they pull them aside and pull them apart. And I see this because I am an SLT member, I'm a parent of 7 children, I'm out there. And I work with her mother, so I've seen it for a very long time. And a lot of these guys are not in there to help our schools. And if our schools fail, then how do we pick ourselves up when they're falling backwards?
And the original question was, for the recording, was can we see SAS's positions and their roles with the superintendent, and what was the other part? That was it, right?
Yes.
Okay. And for me, like Lee Trustee Satori, sorry, Trustee Satori mentioned, it's very much of a supportive role. And I think your question is very heavy, David, to be honest, because it has a lot to do with the culture, right? The culture we've had in the district, if we're being fully transparent and honest. Because I've had the privilege of meeting really good SASs who are very supportive to the schools, who have worked on coordinating programs within that area that they have, and it's been very successful. But I've also had, experiences where I hear that the SASs are not supportive, that they're micromanaging and they're kind of overstepping their role more than anything. So it's a shift that's happening, and our new superintendent is very aware of that. And I know it's been difficult for people to speak up, even from the schools, even probably principals who are uncomfortable with it because of the culture we used to have. And I think this is a start for us to be here and acknowledge that, because I think even the acknowledgement it's a first step to that, because I know it, you know where I come from, you know that I've been in community, I've heard these stories before, and I've seen it sometimes, because you can see when a SAS is being really supportive with their principals, and then when a SAS doesn't have a relationship with their principal. So it's kind of, we got to start, we are working on that culture shift and how to kind of just be better about that.
And can I say too, because I don't want to say like anyone that's in that role shouldn't be, like, I don't mean it that way, but to say like also it's sometimes the direction that they're given. So that, and I think that Superintendent Ebert is really doing a lot to change this culture. So, and they might have in the past, had a different direction when they go in, or different kind of guidance of how they should be working with schools. But hopefully, and us even being here is part of the change of culture, of trying to, have a atmosphere that is more collaborative and working together, and so I think those things are definitely happening and changing, and hopefully, as I think we've seen a lot of the culture starting to shift, you'll see it there too.
So I will ask, speak up, right? I mean, maybe not the principals, because I know there's that thing, but like, if parents who are in the SOT and are seeing these things, you all have the power to advocate and speak up to help your school, right? If there is that toxic culture, I'm gonna be transparent, it's a toxic culture, right?
And the other part, I will say this, and when you work as a school leader, sometimes you don't know your own blind spots. And so having a supportive and experienced coach really can help you move your school forward quickly, right? So you may not know all the ways to help group your teachers. You may not know all the ways to support students and families with culture on your campus. And so while yes, you got assigned to that job, there's still areas of growth that a school leader has. And just like I'm a person in my job, I have a manager, not because the manager needs to tell me every single thing I need to do, but because over time they evaluate my performance and say, here are the things that you've done really well, here are the areas we think you can do better, and I'm going to coach you to get to that next level. And so we want to make sure that principals get that same level of coaching, because the reason, from what I've heard, teachers love to be coached, right? They want to grow. And a principal needs to figure out, how do I make sure I'm growing all of my teachers on my campus, but they also need coaching as well. So it goes down the line. It's not just about going to make sure that I'm checking the numbers and asking you to put on a show. It is about human development. How do I see this person and the talent they have, and then how do I support them to grow from where they are to where I need them to be, so that they can be the best school leader possible. But every person needs somebody to help support them with that growth. So if you had if every principal only, if the ratio was 35-1, it'd be really difficult for that coach to get in and have very specific conversations with that principal, because they wouldn't have the time to spend in that school. And so again, this is not to say that we need to be 1-to-1, but you also can't have so many managers, so many people under you that you can't build really good relationships and understand the culture of the school, understand the human being that you're coaching. And so again, it's a fine line you have to run between making sure that you have enough of the specific conversations, but also, to your point, you can't have 75 SASs, because that's it's an expensive number.
Exactly.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're
And
welcome.
for the folks who have trickled in, you just raise your hand, we'll give you a mic, and it's open forum. Any questions you all might have?
It's on.
Shannon Higney, I am a parent at Hickey Elementary School. I also just started the PTO there. I'm a third-year SLP member, and I am a badged parent volunteer. My concern for this meeting is the safety of not only the other students, over the past few years, our behaviors have gotten so out of control that our principal doesn't even feel like she has the power to properly take care of issues that come up. Because when you have a kindergartner that's able to pick up chairs and toss them at the teacher and other children, and they're not able to be, I don't want to say punished, but essentially that's what it is, properly, because if you were to do that to any police officer, that police officer would obviously take it, be in charge and take care of that child. Why can't that principal go and protect those other kids and staff members and get them to a school that can properly handle them? The behaviors are getting so out of control that we have had to go and hire at least 6 other positions to help handle our students. That's 6 positions of money that we've had to go and use from our carry forward or whatever you want to call the pot that we could have used to do something else to help further our kids. What are we going to do to help keep not only our kids, because my kids are now scared to go to school. I'm not going to lie. They are scared to go to school. And I'm to the point where I don't want to live here anymore because of it. Because my daughter should not have to worry about whether or not she's going to be the next victim of being bullied because her best friend just left the school because she was bullied and they were the only 2 friends to each other. Now I'm worried that my daughter is going to be the next target.
Take that first.
Well, number one, I'm really sorry that the experience has not been what any of us would want for your child. I know the superintendent and all of the team are trying to think about how do we make sure that we have appropriate consequences for students when they're not following our guidelines around behavior. It's been one of the things that the superintendent and team have really started to look at all 3 levels of school, elementary, middle, and high school, because we want to make sure that students feel safe coming to school. You know, we had a survey just last year about perceptions of safety and how do we make sure we turn those perceptions into realities for students to make sure that if they're saying they're unsafe, what do we need to change on our campuses to do it? From our seats in terms of policy, we certainly have continued to ask, one, how to make sure that the discipline isn't unfair, but there are consequences for students who have not followed behavior patterns or expectations for classroom behavior. And I know the superintendent and team are continuing to try to figure out how to make sure that we build school cultures that are strong, where those behaviors aren't accepted and aren't displayed. But I don't know if anybody else has anything they want to add.
I want to repeat the question real quick for the
Sorry.
recording.
Yeah.
It was safety in our schools and what can we do and what are we working on. Do you want to go first or do you want me just
Go ahead, if you want to keep going.
And I think the other thing that we need to think about is a balance of direct, punishment and then figuring out what services that student might be going through and some wraparound services that we can provide. Because unfortunately, just the time that we're in, a lot of these students do act out because of personal things that they might be going through, and especially in the younger, section elementary level, they don't know how to express feelings, and we don't really have anything in place as a whole for students to be able to learn how to express their feelings. I will say the Nevada Department of Education, in partnership with CCSD, has been having family workshops where we've included coping skills and how to have a student just even understand their feelings at a very young level, because we do have 5-year-olds picking up chairs and throwing them, and it's probably something at home that they probably didn't even eat breakfast and they were late to school because of all these other pieces that are coming to. But it's also a balance of the punishment, hey, we've tried being supportive, we've tried helping you, and how to do that, and we are trying to figure that out. So I will just want to include that part of there can be other factors that are going on that honestly they're probably not being funded by the district or the state at this point. And then I will let Trustee Satori go before your follow-up.
Yeah, and it's always such a difficult thing too, because like as Trustee Zamora mentioned, we're always trying to, especially in elementary, it's about teaching the child appropriate behaviors. Definitely seeing a lot of things with restorative justice circles and different supports, definitely those wraparound supports. I mean, and so many of our meetings now, it is about more connections, more partners that we're bringing to connect our families with, to connect our mental health professionals with, our social workers to try to get that support. Definitely some things moving in the right direction as well happened in legislation, which as far as what we can do in those in bullying incidences where we can, relocate the offender of the bullying, not the victim, and some of those things where it gives the principal a little bit more leeway in making sure that they do what's best for all of the students involved. Go ahead. Did you have something specific to add on to?
Just part of like the whole thing that's been going on at our little corner of the universe here. A few weeks ago, a child brought a gun to school. Okay, we all know that that's a very serious issue. That whether he was intending to do harm or not, that's a very serious issue.
see
But
that
if
one.
you read in the code of conduct, it says the principal can recommend a student for suspension or expulsion. Why does it have to be can recommend? That's a very serious issue. Like they should be going to a school that can handle that kind of behavior.
And I'm gonna look at staff real quick.
Also, a student in that same scenario, the next day he was there bragging in school that
Because
he couldn't have
expulsion.
any
Yeah,
punishment.
for
He
weapons
was
on
a
campus,
minor,
it's automatic.
And he's bragging about how he's been suspended from other schools, and now he's at our school doing the same thing. Why is he being kicked from school to school to school? Why is he not going to the behavior schools?
And I want to address the weapons because the weapons in school, and I'm looking at the CCSD staff to correct me if I'm wrong. If it's a weapon in school, it is not like a recommendation for suspension, but it is expulsion.
Age related too,
yeah.
though. It is age related.
Guns,
Yeah,
yes.
it's not. I don't even. Suspension is not an option.
Is there under 11? Is there
Because
the age?
if it's a blade under a certain length, then it's
I
different.
think they took the blade away.
And I don't want to give out that information. There are certain weapons that are required to expel.
For expulsion, okay. And I just want to clarify that for the folks who are watching the recording too, right? Because I don't want the messaging to be, oh, if someone brings a gun, it could be just a suspension, a slap on the wrist type thing. But no, a gun is an expulsion offense, and it is in the code of conduct. And if that situation did not happen, you can reach out to any of us, and we can also continue the conversation.
But like, what about the kid that was conspiring with the other kid? Like, why is he not being punished just as much as the kid with the actual gun?
It's tough because we don't know all the circumstances that surround that situation. And I'm not saying that either of them, I'm not.
Saying that, to be saying that because he's a fourth grader, but when my children hear that, they get scared.
Agree. And part of what we want to make sure happens is, we talked about coaching from principals and helping them understand how to navigate really challenging situations in schools. That's part of the responsibility of a SAS and their leadership. Right? Like when you face a situation that you've never seen before, one, how do I navigate it as a school leader? And then how do I make sure that I keep a really strong school culture and community? Because I don't know all of the details of that specific situation, but it sounds like it's a very challenging situation. And we want to make sure the school leader is equipped to navigate that with his team, to navigate that with the children, to navigate that with the parents who are there, to make sure that it is a seamless school environment and that students aren't coming to school bragging about what they're trying to do, but instead they understand how to diffuse those and then how to make sure that they move the school culture forward. Again, I'm not saying that the principal is not equipped to do that. I'm just saying that part of the process is helping them understand how to navigate these really challenging situations.
And the thing for me as a principal that I tell my families a lot is that I try to communicate all the things that I am doing to keep, but a lot of times when those specific circumstances happen, we can't share what happens with those individual students, as you know.
I mean,
And that's,
my husband's in law enforcement.
Yeah.
He can't tell me everything either. I get it.
yeah.
But my fifth grader and my second grader don't understand that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
I can only use so many words that they understand to try to help them understand, and they still have questions. And I'm out of options of trying to help them understand.
Yeah, and sometimes I tell kids too that there are other consequences that are sometimes not being out of school. So like you're talking about the friend who was involved in talking, sometimes there are other, and not even consequences, other supports. There could be other consequences or supports with that child that can't be shared, obviously, because of confidentiality. But I try to tell the kids, just because, support or consequences doesn't just mean that the student is not at school anymore. There may be a lot of other things that are happening with the family and outside of the school that they're also providing support and things, but that might not be visible. A lot of times students expect to just see the student sitting next to them or not sitting. Oh, they didn't get in trouble, they're here the next day. But sometimes there are, like I said, other factors at play, other ways that they're trying to help the child, and especially in elementary, at all ages, but to learn and develop from it, that might not be visible to all students. But I'm always just trying to talk to the kids, and your administration is doing everything they can to keep you safe. We definitely are communicate to them, making sure that they feel comfortable going to people, when they see things, seeing and reporting things when it happens. But really, I think that's a community-wide, talking about the culture, just really trying to establish that culture of, yes, all working together to not stand up to those things and not tolerate them, but also just kind of having that trust and hopefully that trust in one another to make sure that they're keeping the environment safe. And but I completely sympathize with what you're going through. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Lee, and I just got here at this past Saturday before.
Here, like Las Vegas?
Here in Las Vegas.
All right, welcome.
Welcome.
I'm here because, make a long story short, I'm from California, went to Compton High School, graduated, went to Missouri, played football, and that was in 1991. And I just returned Saturday. Most of my family moved from LA, which is a pattern out here. My mom now has dementia, so I came here to kind of support her. But I told her I will come once I'm able to get a job. So, make a long story short, I applied for a position, thought I got it, not educational enough to know we have to sign a contract. But I was offered a salary, tried to negotiate it, filled out other forms, did a fingerprint check, which I had to do cars because I was in Missouri, just to get told while in the process of driving with my wife, there was a hiring freeze. I think that was a day before the board meeting was going to approve. So I'm here, but a little bit about my background. And I want to answer something later. I work at alternative school. And my district, Kansas City Public Schools, was wanting me to move into a role called a school improvement officer, which I had to decline. Obviously, to come up and support my mom. But at the alternative school, just 2 years ago, we reduced our behaviors by 74.5%. I track this data in our student database system, Infinite Campus. We had the social worker, or we call them restorative justice, and we had a social worker clinician that worked in the school. And in my day-to-day operations, and now, mind you, this is alternative school, we did have groups, circles, that focused on behaviors. Because when you're talking about a kindergarten or a care, especially during a time where 6, 7-year-olds weren't really getting that foundation because we were going through COVID, that's a challenge for some of them. So to share that, that's not an issue that's exclusive to Clark County. That seems to be a nationwide issue with the kids now coming to school and not really having those social skills. So that's why me and my staff focused on those social skills issues. So I'm just adjusting that. So my desire, as I move from a principal, which I've been pushing, is to focus on those skills in the school. So I did my doctoral work on students impacted by trauma and how their impact affects schools. And I did my study comparing urban and suburban schools, trying to get rural, but if we have written a dissertation, that would have been too much. So basically why I came here today is to kind of find out I believe I would have been hired if there wasn't a freeze. I know I have a lot to offer, I know I have a lot of experience. One, will the freeze be lifted? And, I'm trying to get myself out there. Also, to kind of share,
Self-promote, baby.
if you Google Dr. Robert Lee Jr. Principal, a Success Academy at Knox, you will see me in my work. Now, I was a principal at high school. There was issues with the school, the elementary sent there. And then I became executive principal of both. When that almost killed me, the superintendent said, okay, we'll get you back to normal. So, I'm gonna go back to my question, is there gonna be a hiring freeze lifted? What opportunities yet? Because I've really been focused on all the at-risk kids. I enjoy that work. You can work with those babies, but that takes more than what they're doing at the school. That goes into the community, the churches, the resources, and support those babies with wraparound services. So you can know what's behind them bringing a gun, opposed to putting them out for bringing a gun when we don't know what's going on at home. So thank you.
Am I gonna take on that hiring freeze question?
Lisa?
They answered the question.
No, we did not answer the question. We were debating who's going to answer the question. So I don't know the specific.
Sorry, go ahead. The hiring freeze is going to be lifted.
Yeah. So the question was, is the hiring freeze going to be lifted? And you know, obviously our HR team is working with that. I don't know the specifics of timelines on that freeze, but I would imagine it will be.
The answer is yes. The general answer is yes.
So.
But we don't have a timeline. And I see staff over here that might have a better answer.
Perfect. I imagine the answer is yes.
Now, I can only live so long.
So, hi, I'm Kristen. So we do have a hiring freeze right now on all licensed and support staff. And the reason for that is, you might have seen in the news that our enrollment, like districts throughout the country, has been decreasing, right? And so we are going through what we call our surplus cycle right now, which is, okay, very familiar, okay. And so just so everybody knows, this happens every spring and every fall as we actually get our actual enrollment in and make adjustments. So about 40% of our schools actually increase in enrollment, which is great. And there's schools that will be sending more personnel to. And about 16% of our schools decreased in enrollment. Again, the
I
national
want to ask if
trend
she
is
wants to do it right
happening all
now.
over the
You want to
country.
transition to it now?
So we anticipate that
5 minutes,
we
literally.
put the freeze on because we want to make sure that everybody who's moved has a position, and we're working as hard as we can to ensure everybody has a position. I anticipate and I hope that that freeze will be lifted sometime in the next few months at least, because we will be able to shift those positions and make sure everybody has a spot. That's our top priority. Of course, then we have retirements and that sort of thing. So yes, it will be lifted. It could be anywhere from the end of October to January or so.
Caitlin, just
But we will
put this in
keep
the
that
wrong
part
section.
up to date.
Sorry.
Does that include non-school-based positions?
So right now it's all school-based positions. Yes.
So you have.
No, I think we're holding everything at least until surplus is over. So that's the end of October. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to acknowledge, do we have more questions? Okay, make it quick. That's my friend for the recording,
Hello.
okay?
Once again, my name is Evan Dawson, a community member at Hickey Elementary. I do appreciate our PTO president speaking about school safety. I have a similar question, but just before I get into it, I do want to appreciate Trustee Johnson. I know we spoke before about the situation at J.D. Smith, especially the jurisdictional stuff of that intersection between North Las Vegas and Las Vegas. I do appreciate you wanting to work with the city on those. I know you mentioned that briefly. I just want to get a little bit more description on that. Two, some of the things that we have at Hickey that Sandy mentioned, there's one in particular that she was talking about. It's in the code of conduct. It's when a possible suspension of a student, and I'm more than happy to give this to you afterwards. I'll talk to the staff about it. says that a student is in pre-kindergarten to grade 2, so we have a situation of somebody really young. And it says if you're going to suspend them with an SWI, with suspension with instruction, you must contact the region services division for guidance on it. That's essentially turned into a de facto permission. So you've got situations where kids are causing havoc, and especially when they're assaulting and battering on staff and students. And the concern they have is why does the principal need to get outside permission when they have a dangerous situation after that? And so I'm more than happy to share that. But my concern, my actual question, has to do with more of our neighboring school, at Bailey Middle School. Earlier this year, we had a parent walk on the campus and basically threatened a teacher on there. And the reason I say that is that school a couple years ago was up for offense, a gate. A gate very similar to a trustee meeting that I went to at 30 White, where you walk in, you have the gate barrier in there. When I went to with the Cavazos and Urbana Esperanza, their meeting, I went through metal detector, I went through that gate. A couple years ago, that was supposed to be done. In fact, it's planned to be there in 2 years. But when the community spoke about it at Bailey, they were told by the previous administration, the previous staff, that it's on the timeline, you need to wait your turn. And the reason I say that is that when it comes to student safety, especially when it comes to threatening of staff on the east side, they should not be treated differently. And I find it ironic that we're here at El Dorado, where we had a very serious situation. And during that time, immediate action was taken because of the horrific event that happened to a staff member. And so the reason I say this is that I'm not affiliated with Bailey. But Ms. Haney can tell you, she doesn't want to send her kid there. We talk to our staff, we don't want to send them. They're not wanting to send their kids there, especially when you have open enrollment where people have to decide if they can go to any other school. And this isn't a Bailey situation. It's a Hickey Elementary situation who feeds into there. It's a Borkman Elementary situation who feeds into there. It's a Mountain View situation who kids feed into there. It's an MLK situation who feeds into there. It's a Mansion and as well who go into there. And so the concern I have is I'm hoping, and I don't expect an answer on this, is that the situation at Wendy happened when they tried to shut it down, this board took action so we're not going to shut it down, we're going to make sure it's building. And I know this is not an operational decision. This is a leadership decision. And I'm hoping that we can get that expedited because there should be no scenario where a parent or any community member can go to a school and threaten a teacher and think that anybody, a staff member there where they have high vacancies, wants a teacher. Who's going to learn if they don't feel safe? And so I hope we can get that expedited because if it was fixed the time it happened, we'd have it up right now. And it seems to be at times that happens on the east side. And so, like I said, I just appreciate having the opportunity to speak and having the opportunity at this fund. So thank you.
And for the recording, it really wasn't a question, more of a statement of the situation that's been happening at Bailey. I have been in communications with a lot of folks on the east side too, and there's a lot of learning, like we did our disclaimer. There's a lot of learning that we are also, going through. So one of the things for the folks who want to give an answer, just kind of like they can pay it for themselves. No, because when it's their time on the timeline, they're actually going to remove it to put what they want to put in. So it's this ball and this mountain of things that we're looking at to kind of also educate, I think, some of the folks that didn't know how it goes and then figure out a solution together. So thank you.
The one thing I was thinking about though, Ed, as you were talking, and yes, right now we have a system that, you have something this large, you got to have a system for putting things in place. You can't just because everywhere there'd be somebody jumping the line. But I don't know what the protocol is for like expedited hardware. If there's like a criteria for it, maybe there is, maybe there isn't, so that we could also insert that into the system of like, look, this needs to be expedited because, and then there's a way for us to put a proposal in. But I don't know if that's the case. But also, again, we have to make sure the system is continuing to work because again, limited resources. We have lots of things to fix, and so we can't just say like everybody gets to jump the line just because.
So we're not asking you to spend new money that's not there. It's on the timeline, so at least it's there. So it's a little bit different. So I can appreciate you.
Do you want to ask?
Okay. Can we see if there's anyone new who has not had a chance to ask a question? Because we're running out of time a little bit. Okay. I
Someone
said
new.
you.
Someone new.
That's our friend.
You're in a new seat, but that's not.
Anybody over here? Questions? Preguntas?
Come on, Rebecca. We know you got some questions in there.
So I can come up with a question. So I guess I will echo Ed's sentiments. I've lived in the east side for 20 years. I live 4 minutes from here. It is hard not to feel, based on repeated history, that people in other areas of town don't have the timelines to sit and wait. That there isn't the lag and the delay in response. And that's been an uphill battle under 5 different superintendents and way before you guys were in office. I guess I would build off of this Mother's comment. What can be done from a policy standpoint to address the challenges with school safety and traffic? Obviously, no child should feel unsafe walking to school. I know my own kids, they were supposed to walk across Nellis at 5 years old. I have the ability, partially because I chose to stop working and work from home, to make sure they got to school. But a lot of parents don't have that ability and that flexibility to do that. And one of the challenges seems to be that we build schools, we being you, CCSD, with this imaginary concept that people are going to walk and not drive their child to school. So, my kids went to O'Callaghan. You try to navigate O'Callaghan at drop off or pickup. That's like Frogger, right? And not in a good way, because those are 11 and 12-year-olds that aren't paying any attention. And I get that that's a municipal issue when it comes to the streets, but CCSD continues to build schools with parking lots and infrastructure around that don't accommodate the number of cars that are in that area at any time. So we can't keep saying, and this year I've noticed the social media posts, Kirsten, that if you have traffic issues, contact the municipalities, contact the municipalities, contact the municipalities. CCSD has the ability to change how they view campuses with the reality that the majority of parents pick up and drop off their kids because they don't feel safe with other options. So what's going to be done because that is a policy decision to be done.
Well, that's a big question. From my district, because I don't get to see all the new schools, I know from my district, even when we're rebuilding, one of the conversations that are top of the community meetings that we have with the schools is the traffic. And I have seen in the projects, when they're talking about it, they're more intentional about the traffic and the flow of traffic and the buses, because the buses has also been a problem where the buses go. O'Callaghan, I know that is a whole thing. I will say the county commissioner for that school has sent staff over there too, because it is such a big problem. Because if you don't know, it's just a one-way street like this, and people pull over and it's terrible. But I get to speak from my district, right, and just the community meetings, and I think that is something to acknowledge and educate before they build or rebuild a new school. There is community meetings that happen, and yes, we have to be more intentional showing up as parents, as community, to talk about the traffic thing. We've done meetings to talk about a marquee to go up, and people show up and they're like, it's too bright for my house. We got to do the same energy, but for traffic, right? Because we have to learn from people's experience. We're not there all the time. There's only certain schools I can talk about, El Dorado being one because I drive by it, but if it's not in my route, I don't know what the issues is unless we're showing up. And I know that people are on social media, and I see you because you have this big Facebook group, right, that a lot of people go and event to, but how do we get them out of social media to show up to these community meetings? Because even in this space here, we have a lot of regular people that are the same folks. So I think that's a community effort of pulling new people in. And I'm so glad you're here because, you're a parent, and I do see a few faces, but we have to be more intentional of pulling in the other folks that are being directly impacted for this issue too.
And if I could kind of just add, so yes, it is about making sure that voices are coming to the table when we're doing our remodels. And obviously schools that are built, we don't have in the budget necessarily like let's reconfigure what's already there. I think the other part is as we are, and if you watched our last meeting, we talked about just like future thinking about what does it look like as we do have declining enrollment, how do we leverage our buildings to best accommodate the size of our district. That might be one of the things we could think about. Like, are there spaces that are not optimal right now for students to get to school? Can we leverage buildings differently? I don't know if that's going to be one of the things that's taken into consideration, but our consultant partner said all options are on the table, and we will be thinking about how to be innovative. The other thing that's happening now, or like to support the here and now, is the district is part of a traffic safety commission that just met in August, and we'll have more meetings, I know now, because the topic is one that is creating some really challenging circumstances. We had a tragedy earlier this month, and that we now are engaged with because of traffic. And so it is top of mind. It is one of the things that we're thinking a lot about. I just saw, just 2 days ago, I was leaving from an office building, and a person sped around the school bus, and they had to get stopped by CCSD police. So the police are our force is being diligent. We're doing the things we can with our municipality partners, and there's more to still be done. So it's not an easy fix. So I think it's all parts of this together. One, how do we think about the current buildings that we have, and what might we do to reconfigure those? Two, how do we make sure that people are informed and coming into meetings and listening and hearing? Three, enforcing the rules that are already there. And then four, being part of groups that are taking care of it so that we can fix it in the moment. But it's and I pray that we don't have any more issues before any of it gets fixed. But that's the way that we have to go. It's not an overnight thing that fixes, because the infrastructure is there, and it's not like we have a lot of extra money to be able to change the infrastructure immediately.
Yeah. I mean, I would just say, my kid who I went the first time to traffic police with Metro and in jurisdictions at Sandy Miller, and then while he was out of Callahan, I was the SOT president, and I went again to all those people. He's in the Army now. So this isn't new. And to your point, Brenda, and excuse me, Trustee Zamora, I would just point out as well, I think it is short-sighted for CCSD to not acknowledge issues that we know exist without people having to show up and shout. Like, we know these things are issues. Mountain View, that's where my kids are zoned for. My kids are older now, but that's my zone elementary. It was just 3 buildings. And although it has a much nicer facility, there's still traffic issues because it's on a small side street. And so there are things that it just seems we keep punting.
Acknowledge that.
Kirsten, you wanted to add something? Or you was coming to? Yes.
Okay. I know there's more questions, and I see a new face wanting to ask a question. We will probably hang out outside. I will be outside for more questions, because we do have the facility for a limited time, and we do want to give space because we have a call to action for you all.
We do. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Kirsten here. Hi again. I'm Kirsten Sear. I'm the Chief Community Engagement Officer for the Clark County School District, and we do have a very short, very easy call to action for you. And I know some of you have been to a couple of these meetings, so you can participate again if you want to. But we are launching our strategic planning process. We are developing a 5-year strategic plan that will guide all of our work at the school district, all of our budgeting, all of our decisions on where and how schools are being built, all of that work. And so we're just beginning the process, but we are hoping that you will take 2 minutes to scan this QR code and answer a very simple question, which is, what is something that would make you proud of our CSD schools? And so we have gotten a wide variety of responses. It's been very interesting to see what people prioritize. But we deliberately created a question that is very wide open, and because we want to hear what is top of mind for you. So again, we hope that you take 2 minutes to fill this out. If you have any questions about that, please feel free to let me know. And I will turn it back over to our trustees to wrap things up.
And my other call to action is join your SOTs. I started as an SOT mom. I know I love my SOT folks. I definitely have been pitching to call them parent ambassadors because I think it just sounds better. And we need to get that pool, right, from parents to be more involved. And an SOT parent, I feel like, just doesn't give it justice of the actual work that goes in being on the SOT because it is a lot of work. So be a parent ambassador. I'm gonna call it that. Sorry, don't come for me, comms. And join. Just participate. Their meetings are legally supposed to be on their website. If it is not on their website, if there's no meeting information, the room number and everything, please email me or any of the trustees here to let us know. Email your principal first. I will always recommend email your principal first. But legally, it is public meeting that needs to be on their website. So flag those things for us because we need help. We need your support to also make sure that everyone is doing what they need to be doing with stuff like this. And we're just here for support. I'll let Trustee Johnson, closing remarks.
Yeah, one, I'm very thankful that this many people are here. It means, again, we work as a team, we're invested in the district, we only get better when we work together. So I'm glad that you're here, and pushback and like these questions mean that you are thinking about how do we make ourselves better, and we want to be held accountable to doing that work along with you all. The other thing is I'm going to make sure I leave my email address. I know my colleagues, they are also are going to leave their contact information. We are responsive, or I'll speak for myself. I'm responsive. I'm not going to tell someone else to answer emails, but we are responsive because we want to make sure that we're figuring out how to navigate these things together, right? And again, not every issue is one that we can solve ourselves, but these are things we can either talk to the superintendent and then she can work with her team to navigate. But we want to make sure that we are hearing from you. We want to make sure that we're getting to the root of these challenges, especially if we hear the same thing over and over. Then we recognize that this is an issue that's not being resolved. We have to figure out how to fix it.
And I will say sometimes we won't have a direct answer. We have bi-weeklies with the superintendent, so I usually just write up a list of non-urgent items and then I'll present it of just questions from the community. So just be aware of that. That is my disclaimer, and you all can get my email and my district phone number too. It is on the website as well, but I will be outside too to give my information out.
Yeah, and it is on the website also. And yes, definitely please reach out. And gosh, lost my train of thought. But anyway, I do want to thank you so much for I know what I was going to say. And that is the case too, that even though sometimes we don't know the correct answer, we know the priorities. We know where the interest is. And then also we can try to help get you in the right direction. Sometimes we can't answer it ourselves, but at least we can try to connect you with the right people. But the more, and thank you so much because this is such a helpful dialogue. And I'd love to this is what we have been, wanting to see more of us just being able to have these opportunities to interact, to chit chat. And hopefully this kind of just, kickstarts a lot of the correspondence, whether it's in person or email or such. But thank you so much for your time and being involved.
And hold us accountable, you all. I mean, tell me if people have my cell phone.
Thank you guys for showing up. I don't know that maybe everybody don't want to clap, but I would appreciate it.
Like, you're supposed to be here. Don't clap for what you're supposed to do.
We'll clap for you guys.
That's right. You're supposed to be here.
Thank you, everyone.